Hi everybody, I want to thank you today for coming out and supporting Iowans for DC statehood. A lot of people ask why Iowans care about DC statehood, and I say, you know what, we always have. In 1978, there was a constitutional amendment that was passed bipartisan, and Iowa was one of only 16 states that ratified that amendment. Unfortunately, it needed 38 to pass, so it did not pass. But that's just one example of how Iowa has been on the right side of history many times and on this issue. In fact, a little known tidbit, and Senator Tom Harkin pointed this out to me, he was the first presidential candidate to include it in his platform when he was campaigning. So one of the things that happens tonight, obviously this is a big day, this is caucus day, this is an exciting time. And one of the things that gets lost in that sometimes, because everybody's all excited about who their candidate is going to be, who they're going to pick, well, something else happens. We also talk about issues that are important to us. We pass platform resolutions on to the county convention that help to go on and shape and mold the platform at the national level and what we want our candidates to stand for and to speak out for us as a people. And this is one of those issues that is really important. You think maybe it doesn't affect you directly, but you know what? When you think about 700,000 plus Americans who are not represented in this country, not having the same representation, let alone the access that we have here in Iowa, but you know, it matters. If we're the beacon of democracy around the world, we have to be the beacon here at home. We have to take care of the people here at home that are being denied those rights right now. So I'm really excited to have with us this weekend Congressman Franklin Garcia, Senator Michael Brown, and Senator Paul Strauss, who are all going to speak. And we've been going around to a lot of events and passing out resolutions for people to take to their caucuses tonight and to make sure get turned in at that platform discussion. And we've got people from Sioux County to Winneshiek County to Lee County, Page County, and every county in between. We have people that are going to be turning those in tonight. If you want to be one of those people, we would love your support. Go to IowansForDCStatehood.com, click on the Caucus 2020 tab, and you can download a pre-printed official caucus resolution form already ready to go. You just turn it in at your caucus. So with that, I would like to introduce our president of Iowans for DC Statehood, Dr. Selden Spencer.
All right. Well, good morning, and a great morning here in Iowa. And I want to thank the staff and Senator Strauss, Brown, and Congressman Garcia for being here. And I want to extend greetings from the following counties: Pete O'Leo in Carroll, Kathy Getting in Hamilton County, Drew Kepster in Hardin County, and of course, Maddie Anderson in Story County. And I want to tell you that as a caucus director in Precinct 25, Huxley, I will be submitting a resolution for DC statehood. I appreciate you guys being here, all of you, partly because it's an endorsement of democracy. And at this time, and I heard from each of you, it stirs my heart to think that what you're doing is maybe restoring democracy in this country. This is something that's so vital and so needed, and I really appreciate it. So, Congressman Garcia, you're on.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. To say to you, I am so excited to be here. My name is Franklin Garcia, the shadow member of Congress representing the District of Columbia. And it is truly, truly an honor to be here in Iowa on Caucus Day. You know, the weather isn't ideal, but I tell you, the love you feel here makes it feel like you're in Florida. So I'm very excited to be here. Let me share with you a couple of things. In the District of Columbia, we have a photograph of a 93-year-old man that goes, this photograph is in our city hall. And it's the photo of this 93-year-old man that goes to vote in 1964 for the first time in his life. And people wonder, well, why is it that he voted for the first time in his life at 93? Well, the reason for that is because he couldn't have voted prior to that, because he lived all his life, he was a lifelong Washingtonian, and he lived in DC where he couldn't have voted prior to 1964, because the Constitution had to be amended for him to have that privilege. Now, the irony of our democracy is exactly that it denies the people in the city, in the cradle of democracy, it denies the citizens the ability to be fully represented in the national legislature. I had the privilege in the last election cycle to be one of 3 electors that the District of Columbia was able to get as the process of, through the amendment process of the Constitution. And here's the irony of our democracy. I was able to participate in that process that put in place the President of the United States. But for that historical vote on the House floor, where the jurisdiction that voted the most against the current sitting president, over 90% of the population in Washington, D.C. voted against Donald Trump, we weren't able to have anybody on the floor of the House take a vote on behalf of those 700,000 American citizens. And that's wrong. And that's why it is so important for the people in Iowa, and I hope in many other states, take on this issue, because this is the national disgrace that has got to change. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to caucusing with you all, going throughout the different places, and enjoying the process. And hopefully we'll make, this is the beginning of what will be an important process in the primary process. I wish luck to all the candidates that are out there, and just very excited to be here. Now let me introduce here with the full congressional delegation. So Senator Brown, it's up next.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Garcia, and thank you for Iowans for DC Statehood. This is an amazing thing for us in Washington. You know, if we could bestow equality on ourselves, we would do it. We would have done it 200 years ago, but we can't. We need the support of people outside the District of Columbia to help us gain equality through statehood. And we're so grateful to the people of Iowa for taking this journey with us. Just to elaborate on a few things that have already been said, as Tamara said, this is the right thing to do. As the doctor said, this will restore our democracy. Thomas Jefferson told us that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal. Yet the people in the District of Columbia are not created equal. We have 30,000 veterans who have bravely served their country, who do not have a vote in their own national legislature. We're the only country in the world that does this. We have 200,000 who have served in combat, 20,000 have made, 2,000 have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and yet, as Representative Garcia pointed out, they couldn't even vote for the President of the United States until the first person they elected was Lyndon Johnson in 1964. Imagine going off to 3 years of war in Europe, going all across Europe to fight, as my father did and many of your fathers did, and coming back to Washington, D.C. and not being able to vote for even president. We didn't have a mayor or a city council or any self-rule until 40 years ago. So we're making progress, but to get to where we need to go, we need the support of people outside the District of Columbia. And this is why Iowans for DC Statehood is so important to us. So, we're just so glad to be here. The people of Iowa have been so gracious to us. We really appreciate your support, and we need to get this done. You know, in a country that's known as freedom, how can this be fair, that the people of the District of Columbia have no say in their own government? The people who actually run the government in many cases have no input. It's amazing. I often say it's like telling the people of Detroit they can't drive cars. It's just crazy. We're the only country in the world that does this. And to expand on something that Tamara said earlier, there is a vested interest in all, for everyone in DC statehood. Imagine what 2 more Democratic senators would have done in the United States Senate over the past 4 years, 2 voting senators. We would have had a different outcome on so many things. So it's so important for every person in America to stand up for the principle of democracy. We're the only country in the world that does this, and we're so happy that Iowa stands with us. We know that you've always stood for democracy. God bless Tom Harkin. God bless the people of Iowa, and God bless the people of the District of Columbia who deserve to be represented like every other American. And now I want to introduce to you the senior senator from the District of Columbia, and the older I get, the more I like calling him the senior senator, Paul Strauss.
Thank you, Senator Brown, Representative Garcia, and really to all of the Iowans that are standing with us today, behind us now. It is good to know that you have our back, literally, at this moment, and tonight when you go to your caucuses, those of you who will be introducing resolutions, voting on those resolutions, it means so much to those of us in the District of Columbia. Iowa plays a special role in our democracy, but Iowans have a special commitment to that democracy. In a country where too many people can't even be bothered to vote, Iowans are going to go out tonight and not just pick a candidate, but spend in some cases hours debating amongst themselves important issues that affect us all. And what could be a more important issue than the foundation of our democracy itself? One vote, one person, equal representation for all Americans. When you fight for our equality, you make our country stronger, you make your community stronger, and we are so pleased to be out here in your great state celebrating this unique and special ritual of democracy. Thank you, Iowa. We appreciate your hospitality, but more importantly, we appreciate your activism and your voice to help us get ours.
Thank you, Senator Strauss, Senator Brown, Congressman Garcia. Again, we're so glad to have you and the rest of the folks from DC. Also, Rachel from the mayor's office in DC, we're so glad to have you as well. Thank you for being here. And again, thank you as well. And don't forget, IowansForDCStatehood.com. Click on the Caucus 2020 tab, download that resolution, take it with you tonight. It is so important that we're standing for these important issues together and discussing them and moving them forward. So again, thank you for your support. Let's caucus.
All right.